My story is a lot different than Julie's. It's really not about all of wonderful things that I've done, but it's actually about how my life fell apart. You see, when I was a kid, everything was normal. I went on a trip to Ecuador when I was 10 because I cared about poverty. I excelled in school. I played baseball. I played the flute in the wind ensemble in high school. Today, I'm going to DU as a music student. I hope to graduate next year, and I love skiing, hanging out with my friends, and I even volunteer once a week by sharing my music with the elderly for a hospice service. But I bet you'll be surprised that there was a middle chapter of my life, and that was the chapter that was marked by severe mental illness. I don't know what you think of when you think of mental illness, but many people run away from it. They don't understand it. They're scared of it, really. I'd like to share my story with you. It starts in, and I have to apologize, what's still going on with me today, my body reflects what I've been through my voice, and when I get nervous, sometimes I lose my voice. In fact, my friends here know that for a while I lost my voice altogether for about 2 years. So if I lose my voice, just bear with me. I might have to take a drink of water, take a deep breath, but it's just how I cope with everything that I've gone through. So in 2005, I was attending school in California, and I really didn't know how to say no to anything, so I took on way too much. I started to hear a voice in my head, and I started to believe things related to my religion, which were not based on reality. So one night in my Greek class, suddenly I got this idea that Jesus was coming back right away. So I got up and left my backpack in the classroom I was attending, went to my car, and drove for 5 hours. And I was literally staring at the sky the entire time. I was staring at the sky the entire time, waiting for Jesus to come back. This was in Southern California, and I honestly should have died in a tragic car accident. My friends and family were really worried about me. And and the very next Monday morning, can you guys hear me if I lose my voice? Okay. The very next Monday morning, my parents came out to pick me up and take me home.
Guys, this is the first time that Andrew has shared this with this many people. The first time he shared it with anyone, it was with me and 4 other people. So I mean, this is really you're doing great. So we want you to take your time and to relax and tell us your story. So please feel free to take a break. We're totally with you.
Okay. Thanks. So my parents came out to take me home, but you see, I thought I was fine. This didn't go over so well with my father. He happens to be a trained psychotherapist. So his idea was, if I didn't want to go home, then I needed to go to a hospital. Now, I don't know what you guys heard about mental hospitals, but they're pretty much as bad as prisons, in my opinion. And when I got there, my roommate told me that he was God. He was more crazy than I was. And he told me that he was going to kill me. Now, talk about not being able to sleep at night. And when I returned home from the hospital, the voice in my head turned into what I thought was my roommate, still talking to me and telling me how to live my life. You know, excuse me. I would take medications, which would basically not work. And then one day in the fall of 2006, I got into a really bad car accident. The very next day, I lost my job. It shook me up a lot, and I began to see things which were not real. I want you to imagine what it was like for me, because I don't think that people think about these things enough. One day I woke up, and there was a snake in front of my chest. And this snake would coil up all day and continually bite at my heart. Not only this, but I believed that this snake was actually Satan, and that I was physically, literally being attacked by the devil himself. This was really, really hard for me. My life was torture. One day I woke up and there was fire everywhere, and I spent actually the entire day in my parents' bathroom in a corner of it because it was the only place in the whole house without fire. As I said, my life was torture, and I was filled with condemnation. It was a nightmare. It was indeed a living hell. I bet you're all wondering what it took for me to get better. Well, as I said, the pills really weren't working, so I had to take an injection, a shot, and that did get me better. But I think the thing that got me better the most was I learned to love myself for the first time in my life. I tend to be a perfectionist, and I'm too hard on myself. And when I really learned that I need to nurture myself and love myself, that's when I started to get better. If you think my life was a nightmare, though, imagine what it was like for my parents. You see, when my parents were there for me, no one was there for my parents. And this is because of what I talked about earlier, because people are so scared of it and they don't know what to do. And so my question is that when someone breaks their arm, we write all over their cast. But when someone has a mental illness, I think we tend to run away. And I really wish that that would change. I'd like to bust a myth for you guys about mental illness. And that's this, that violence is actually not common in mental illness. My personal opinion is that it's about as common as the general population. I don't have any evidence for that, but that's what I believe. A list of people that have struggled with mental illness, enough to have it interfere with their life. Get this. It includes Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Michelangelo, Beethoven, Van Gogh, Leo Tolstoy, and Ernest Hemingway, among many others. I'm also on that list. Are you really afraid of these people? I think they've really contributed to our world pretty well. Are you afraid of me? Another way that mental illness is affecting our society is through homelessness, actually. If you look at the statistics, about 40% of homeless people are also mentally ill. I don't have all the answers to homelessness in our world, but obviously these issues are interrelated, and if we help one, we will help the other. So, what is my message today? I think we need to bring awareness to this issue. Yes, we need to stop the stigma in its tracks. Yes. But most importantly, I want people to know that if they're out there and they're going through what I went through, that they're not alone. I'd actually like to end with a story. And this is the part that's hard for me because I really want you to understand it. You see, it's about Jared Loeffner. We all remember what happened last year in Tucson, Arizona, when Jared unfortunately killed several people and severely wounded Representative Gabby Giffords. Now, was Jared receiving the love and support he needed? I think he was receiving some, but I don't think he was getting enough. There is hope, though, even in this most dire of tragedies. And that's this, that after the horrible tragedy in Tucson, everybody was asking, why did this happen? And what can we do to prevent it from happening in the future? This, to me, shows that people are willing to talk about mental illness, if for no other reason than that they do not want these things to happen anymore. But I have a story about what happened after the incident, and that is that I was watching the news one night, and a reporter was interviewing Jared's neighbors from high school. And my friends know I'm the type of person that always has compassion on everybody, so I have compassion on Jared Loeffner, and if you don't, I totally understand. But these neighbors said that Jared was actually a pretty vibrant young man in high school, and that he played the saxophone in the high school jazz band. And they said that beautiful music would come from Jared's house every night. And then they said that one night the music stopped. You see, I'm not all that different from Jared Loeffner. I play the flute. And in high school, beautiful music would come from my house every night too. The music stopped for me as well. But I'm back, and I'm here as a living testament to show that people can and do get better from mental illnesses. So if you know someone out there that's going through what I went through, fight for them as they're fighting their way out of it. Because when you do, you're fighting for a guy like me. Thanks.
Let's really hear it for Andrew Steward. That was great, man. Hey, thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Andrew, give it to him, guys. Give it to him. Guys, this is the first time that Andrew has shared this story, like I said, in front of more than a handful of people. So we are really proud of him for having come up here and told us about it, because obviously it's important. So, like I said, we're going to have some questions and answers. If you've got a question for Andrew, please let us know, and we'll send a mic to you. Can we get one over there? First, Andrew, I wanted to talk. You said that that part of what was so hard in your struggle was that there was no one to support you or your family. So if you could tell us a little bit about what we could do to support people we know who might not be dealing with mental illness and their families.
Well, my first answer is probably just to do anything you would normally do for anyone that's going through an illness or anything hard. My answer basically is not to respond with fear and not to shut down and say, well, I'm afraid and I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything, but just to be there and just to try to do something. The families will understand that you're trying, and they'll appreciate that love.
Awesome. Where was that question? Yeah.
Hi. I have a friend at home who was actually just diagnosed with schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. And just recognizing that I'm so far from home, what do you think I should do for him?
How can I be there? You're so far from home.
Oh, I'm from Seattle,
okay.
And so it's obviously I just can't be there with him. What do you recommend I do?
I mean, I guess I would say calling him on a regular basis. I had a friend when I was sick. My best friend from my first college called me about once every week for 2.5 years, and that meant so much to me. And you know what? I was completely. I wasn't having conversations with him like a normal person, and I wasn't making sense. And I was telling him things and he was like, "What's going on, dude?" But he just kept calling me over and over again every week, and that probably meant more to me than anything that anyone's done for me. So even if you feel like he's distant or he's not the same person, or even if you feel like he's not there anymore, you know what I'd like to tell you is that people told me that I was gone and that I wasn't there anymore and that they had lost me. And even though my behaviors were not showing the same person, I still felt the same inside, and I still felt like I was still living my own life, my own normal life. And I just wanted people to know that the same person they always loved was still there. And so I can guarantee you that he is still feeling that way himself, that he still feels the same way inside. And he, more than anything, will just appreciate you just being there through a phone call or a card or anything. I'm sorry I don't have anything more tangible for you, but I hope that that helps in some way.
That's still great advice. Who else has a question for Andrew? Back here in the back, Dylan. Thank you very much. We'll give Dylan just a second to get back there.
Hey, thanks so much for speaking today. Do you think that people are possibly afraid of mental illness because we don't really understand what causes it all the time? For instance, if I was to break my arm, we would say, well, I broke my arm because I was in a bike accident. But when someone has, a mental breakdown, the cause and effect of it isn't so clear. And what's your perspective on that?
Honestly, I don't know what causes it either. I mean, my doctors would tell me that it's just like an early adult onset illness and that it happens when you are about 18 to 25 and all of these things you can find in the DSM, My personal opinion is that it happened because I took on way too much and I got really burnt. I got stressed out and I wasn't putting myself first when I needed to, if that makes sense. But as far as not understanding mental illness because of that, wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I agree with you, actually, because I think that people like to know where things are coming from, and they like to know why they're happening. And physical illnesses, yeah, I would probably agree with you that that's why, yeah.
Just to follow up, I think that it's possible that people are afraid that it could happen to them, and they don't understand where it comes from, and so it seems so random. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Andrew, you actually had a funny story that you shared with us about what you think about your diagnosis. You had a interesting path in finding out, what the doctors thought was wrong. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I don't think the doctors still have any clue whatever happened to me. My first doctor said that I had schizophrenia, but he later told me that I've gotten so much better that there's no way that could be what happened because that tends to be a really chronic illness. And so I feel like the luckiest person in the world to have gotten that diagnosis and then to have gotten, basically fully better. My new doctor here in Castle Rock thinks that I have bipolar disorder, but I don't ever get depressed, and so I don't know what's wrong with her, but so yeah, I go to doctors, and I think that they help. I fully think that they help, but I don't think they always know exactly what, they're people like we are, and they're really just continuing their practice, and so I totally respect them, and I need them, but they're not perfect, so.
Let's give one more huge round of applause to Andrew Steward. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you.